Our guest today in studio hails from K-State's own music department. Dr. David Littrell conducts the university orchestra, teaches and plays the cello, and is a university distinguished professor of music. He is currently staying busy on a number of different projects while being on sabbatical from teaching. Thank you for joining us today in the studio. Let's start off with you telling us how you got started in music.
Well, it was a pretty interesting story. It was in 4th grade. I happened to be sick one day and absent from school. And that very day, the orchestra teacher came around and needed somebody who liked music and was good in arithmetic. And so several students pointed to my empty chair. So the very next day when I came back to school, they said, "Guess what? You're going to play the cello." And so I lugged the cello home the last day of 4th grade from Lee School back to my home. And have had a wonderful experience since that time. And that very teacher who was there that day looking for a cello player is still alive and turned 100 last November. And I corresponded with her after having had no correspondence with her in 48 years.
How neat. That's really cool. So then, had you played any musical instrument before 4th grade?
No, not at all.
And so you just started with the cello?
I started with the cello, and I started immediately with private lessons with Warren Walker, who was the cello professor here at K-State. And then I took his place when he retired in 1987.
Wow. So how many years have you been playing then?
Last spring, I celebrated 50 years of playing the cello, and I gave a special concert, a special recital to honor those many years of practicing.
Cool, very cool. Now, I saw that you had been to England and Scotland and performed there. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, in 2008, I took a chamber orchestra derived from the K-State Orchestra over to England and Scotland. We played 4 different recitals and, of course, had lots of sightseeing. And this was so inspiring that we're going back to Ireland in March of 2011. But this sabbatical tour that I'm taking next month is a direct outgrowth of that trip to England and Scotland. We met a very interesting and wonderful Anglican priest there in York. We played at his church, and so somewhere a few months later, I got in my mind that it would be nice to go back and give a recital tour and take a sabbatical, and that's indeed what I'm going to be doing in April.
And that'll just be yourself then, right?
Yes, my wife and I are going, but it's just a solo cello recital, and I'm going to play recitals in 7 different churches and cathedrals in England. We're playing 2 places in Devon in the southwest of England, then going to play in Coventry Cathedral. That's a very interesting and moving experience. I visited there in 2008, and the 4 walls of the bombed-out cathedral still stand, and then a modern cathedral stands next to it. And I'll be, of course, playing in the modern cathedral. And then going up to York, playing there at an Anglican church there. Then at Carlisle Cathedral and a village in the Lake District, and then end up the tour by playing in Lincoln Cathedral.
Wow. Now, did you get to choose what places you wanted to go to?
More or less, yes. I wrote several places, and the Anglican priest in York set up a few of the places, too, for me.
How cool. That's really exciting. Now, have you been out of the States before?
Oh, this is my 10th trip to Europe.
Have you always gone to play music, or did it just...
No. It started out in 1968 when I was a student here at Kansas State, and I went over to Paris and studied French there during the summer. At that time, K-State sent over about 20, 30 students every summer, and we stayed in French people's houses, and I studied French at that time. And that particular trip made a world of difference in my career and outlook on life and broadened my horizons.
I'm sure. What's the longest then, maybe not including, how long were you there for that then?
I was there for, I believe, 6 or 7 weeks.
So how long will you be there for playing?
We leave on Easter Sunday on April 4th, and we come back on the 19th. So it's about 15 days. And during that time, of course, we're going to do a lot of sightseeing. I've already used an Excel spreadsheet to put in all the places I want to go visit and the page number in the guidebook and so forth. I'm very organized.
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it's marvelous. I've always wanted to go to the Lake District. And Lincoln Cathedral looks particularly appealing. It's just beautiful. It sits atop a hill and can be seen for miles and miles around.
Have you been in all the places that you're going to be performing?
No, I've been down to Devon before, twice, and I've been to York and Coventry, but we're going to a lot of different places outside these areas. We're going to have a rental car and go see things, places like Burley House and Chatsworth House. Many of these fine old homes have been used in movies. In fact, the very first recital down in Devon is a wonderful little parish church, and it was the church that was used in the wedding scene at the end of Sense and Sensibility, for instance. And just a half mile from that church is the Barry Pomeroy Castle, which is in ruins now, but my wife wrote a ballet about some of the stories that took place in that castle, and that ballet is going to be performed by ballet dancers, obviously, at
Right.
Spring Dance here at K-State at the end of March.
Well, that's
So
really neat.
there's quite a tie in there.
Well, I hope you have a great time.
Oh, we're going to have a wonderful time.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you very much.